Greetings from the office of the Tangkhul Katamnalong, Delhi. I would like to congratulate the winners and the participants of Old Tangkhul Speech Contest on the topic My Idea of a Nation, organized by TKLD. A total of 18 participants participated in the contest from different walks of life, including teacher, research scholar, theologian, and students. Everyone who has participated in the contest is a winner through your contribution and participation. The contest has created a space to discuss and to delve into an issue that is relevant and pertinent to us. It is important for us to know where we belong, where we are heading to, and what do we aspire to achieve as a Naga in building a Naga nation. As John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. It is high time for us to come forward and contribute in building a Naga nation that we long for. I would also like to give my heartfelt gratitude to the judges and all the well-wishers who have given their invaluable inputs and contributions, without which the contest would have been incomplete. We look forward to continue having your active participation in the future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gilgil Ikroham, and today I will be giving a speech on the topic, My Idea of a Nation. As a Naga, I know that it is my birthright to defend our history and identity, to continue living with the constant hope of reminding ourselves that our nation is not one that has lost its resolve to achieve freedom. Our struggle for freedom is not based on a foundation made of sand. We have a rich, unblemished history that spans generations. We were never part of India, neither by conquest nor by the consent of the Naga people, and this was rightfully recognized by then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee on 11th of July 2002. To put simply, India and Nagalim are two entities. My idea of a nation is to inculcate all the best qualities of nations worldwide and nurture Nagalim accordingly. I believe that children are the pillars of tomorrow, and to ensure that they are capable of taking up the responsibility of leading our nation, we need to start from the grassroots. Education. The excellent education system of Norway is something that we can draw from. Let me be brief about the system. Barneskole is the start of school life, which is for children above the ages of 6. Ungdomsskole and Videregående consist the upper secondary. Now, upper secondary forms the basis of a person's professional life in Norway. This is for the children from ages 13 to 16 to ages 16 to 19 respectively. Norway believes that everyone should have access to education regardless of the socio-economic background. Speaking of the economy, I would like the essentials to be owned by the government. This will ensure that every single family receives the basic necessities such as electricity and water. India is one of the world's fastest growing economy, and this is precisely because of the way that they handle their private and government sector. For instance, electricity is state-owned but subsidy-driven. My idea of an ideal nation does not limit itself solely to the socio-political or economical spheres. It prioritizes the people to build a nation that is able to support even the lowest section of society, that reduces pollution, that eradicates poverty, and at the same time encourages proper mental and physical health. To add to this, I would like my ideal nation to be free of corruption, which takes me back to my point about education. There are no laws that can stop human greed. However, having or providing a high quality education This will help build a strong foundation of integrity and responsibility among our citizens. The educated man will never ever trade his or her own rights in exchange for worldly possessions, for money. Of course, we are bound to face problems as we start off this new journey of creating a new history for a newly formed nation. But we should not lose sight of the brighter future. In the book of Exodus, Moses leads his people out of Egypt in search of the promised land. Regardless of the hardships that they faced in the Sinai desert, he was able to lead his people into Canaan and was able to fulfill God's promise to Abraham. Let us not be those followers who lost faith halfway, who had no faith in the struggle. Instead, let us all embody the spirit of Moses and his determination. My people, we too will one day find our promised land. My idea of a nation is not a dream. It is a blueprint. Let us build it together. Thank you.
My idea of a nation. In 1948, when India had just woken up to life in freedom, A.Z. Fizo, who introduced himself as a spokesperson, wanted India to set free the Nagas. In his letter to C. Rajat Gopalachari, he wrote, "We occupy a territory at a point of confusion, and we cannot permit Naga territory to be political polemics, which curbs the formation of Naga National Council and gave sustenance to the Naga movement." And coming to my idea of a nation, I believe it all boils down to nation building. And speaking of nation building, I would like to start up with first the concept of patriotism. Patriotism is a love for nation, enacted with an action of selflessness. It means sacrificing our life, our blood for security, freedom, and integration. A nation is formed with a motivated patriots like Fizo, who says, "I am a Naga first, a Naga second, and a Naga last." Second, unity. After the signing of Shillong Accord in 1975 in the name of NNC, no doubt Naga has split into various organizations, from National Socialist Council of Nagaland in 1980 to NNCN-IM and NNCN-K in 1988 to Naga National Political Groups, etc., with various visions respectively. For example, NNCN-IM proposed for shared sovereignty, yet Naga would not merge with India, whereas NNPG has no issue the existence under Indian sovereignty. This shows the existence of dissenting voices and doubts among Nagas. The 70 years of patience and struggles and the 23 years of peace talk would be successful if we adopt the concept of we Nagas cannot be divided. If we are not united, we will fall. Imagine 2.4 million of Naga population coming together as one and standing as one. I believe we can build an inclusive nation that is Kugnalim. Third, a flag and a constitution signifies a nation. There is no nation without a flag and a constitution. If the government of India has recognized the unique history of the Nagas and that we were never conquered, it is the right of the Naga to have a flag and a constitution. Fourth, a socialist and a democratic form of government. A nation of democracy where there will be no interplay of many to ensnare the voters to elect the representatives. A socialist nation where there is equality and no division of classes. A society where there is no corruption. Fifth, Education. A nation is not only a geographical boundary, it is an idea that must infuse in people's mind and must burn as a pride in our hearts. But we don't know about Antolan War, the Second World War in the Nagas, and a lot of achievements of the Nagas. We only know the negotiations that is going on over a decades. We never learn even a line on Naga movement. Therefore, a syllabus must be included on Naga movement in the subject of the mother tongue so that the youth understand the history of the Naga and adopt the quality of ownership and leadership. Sixth, gender equality. It is a fact that Naga society is a patriarchal society. However, the position of a woman in a nation is an accurate asset to the development of a nation. Any development strategy that neglects the enhancing role of a woman cannot lead to comprehensive social and economic development. Therefore, it is important to address women issue and empower women to have an inclusive nation. In conclusion, a nation means I stand here and make things happen. A nation means you and me. And I believe if all the Nagas come together, despite the differences of the tribes, with a common spirit of one nation, one Naga, I believe we can have an inclusive nation that is Kognalim. Long live Kognalim. Thank you.
My idea of a nation. English Oxford Dictionary defines nation as a country, considered as a group of people with same language, culture and history, who live in a particular area under one government. American political scientist Benedict Anderson characterized a nation as an imagined community. A nation is said to exist when it could trace its origin through the state in which it associates itself with a history. Additionally, the cultural elites must also be established, and there must be a valid reason for its claim on a territory. It is only when these requirements are fulfilled, the international considered the claim of a nation. In order to form a healthy, prosperous and cultured nation, we must endowed the following characteristic. 1. Youth empowerment. The first and the most important point is youth empowerment. The youth play a very essential role in forming a nation. The youth should be encouraged to take charge of their own lives. They must include in decision-making process. Honor the voice of the youth. Understand and implement our honest opinions and ideas. In today's situation, we the young Nagas felt neglected in decision-making process. The condition of the youth today is not enough to build a firm and strong nation. There is a lack of information and communication among the leaders and the youth. We the young Nagas want to know not just the history of narrative, but also narrative exposition and interpretation in the right perspective for the better and greater enlightenment. We want to know where our Naga national leaders are taking us. We want to be sure of a landing ground. We do not want to tread the path that cannot guarantee the security of our future. We want to come out of our stagnancy and move ahead. The youth are fast losing hopes in nationalism because of the prevailing situation today. My dear Naga brothers and sisters, it is the right time for us to come together and fight for the freedom. If we stand united as one, nothing can stop us. Number 2, healthy nation. We need to build a nation where each citizen, whether rich or poor, is physically, mentally, and emotionally strong. Number 3, clean nation. Cleanliness is next to godliness. We must build a clean nation by achieving cleanliness in our environment and politics. Number 4, self-reliant nation. Everyone must contribute and support to build a strong and powerful nation. No society can prosper or be at peace with itself if one person is neglected, deprived, or unwanted. Many of our brave brothers and sisters have laid down their life for the cause of the nation. Their sacrifice for the nation to achieve freedom, prosperity, and pride should not be forgotten. We must never surrender and take what belongs to us. Our Kritage Muiwa has rightly said, Nagas will never surrender to India, even here on earth or in heaven. Let us all come together, join hand, and stand in one voice and fight for our freedom. Kugnali.
Today I would like to speak on a topic, my idea of a nation. First of all, let us understand what is a nation. A nation is defined by the Dictionary of English as a large body of people united by a common descent, common history, common culture, or common language, inhabiting in a particular territory of land. Nation is accompanied by 4 elements. Firstly, population, where a large mass of people. Secondly, territory, where a large mass of land is required for them to settle down. Thirdly, government, where the managing body should manage the people to bring stability and civilization in the society. And fourthly, and most importantly, sovereignty, which is very important, where internally and externally need to be independent. A nation should have all these 4 elements to be called as a qualified and absolute nation. I, as a Naga, or as a young generation, or as a youth, would like to speak on today's topic with the context of Naga as a nation. Nagas are understood or viewed by the outside world as a developing tribals in the northeastern part of India. Nagas are understood as people away from India, or Nagas are understood as people look alike, like a Chinese, by the rest of the Indians. When we are outside, away from the mainland, we are addressed and called with using different names, such as Chinese, Nepalese, and Chinese. What makes them to call us or address us with different names? Because we have different culture, we have different languages, we have different appearances, or we have different in everything. Is that the only reason why they address us like this? Let us come back to the history of Nagas. Until 1851, Nagas were never a part of India. Nagas were living as an independent tribals. Nagas history were known as brave history. Nagas history were known as courage history. Nagas were known as people of compassionate. Nagas were known as people of acceptance, where people live in different regions and people accept one another. Nagas were independent of their own livelihood, never dependent on others. On 1851, at the Battle of Kikruma, the Britishers captured Nagas in order for the smooth administration in relating to Assam traitors. Nagas were bound to pay taxes, and Nagas were bound in the hands of Indians. Until then, Nagas lived their life independently. As we understood in today's generation, Nagas have reached and have qualified for these 3 important elements, where Nagas have population, Nagas have territory, Nagas can govern by themselves if we are given opportunity, and lastly, most importantly, Nagas need to have their own sovereignty, where people of Nagas should allow to take their own decisions. Nagas need to have the absolute sovereignty. Example, like Nagas should be allowed to have their own constitution, where a country without constitution is not called as a country. A country without a flag or a country without symbol is not called as a country. So Nagas should be given allowed to make their own constitution to rule by themselves, and Nagas should have their own constitution and flags. Nagas need to have their own separate nation, as we have qualified for all these elements if we are given chance and opportunity. Nagas need to serve justice. Nagas need to be served equality by the rest of the world, and most especially Nagas' sentiment need to be understood by the government of India. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my idea on a nation. Thank you.
Blessed is a nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen as his own inheritance. Saluting my speech with a Bible verse from Psalm 33, verse 12. Hello, I am Yurhimchon Miyasha, and I am delighted to share my few thoughts and ideas of a nation. To begin with, let us first understand what actually is a nation. For me, a nation refers to an emotionally integrated people living in more or less defined territory, inspired by a sense and consciousness of unity, common political aspiration, common interest, common history, and most importantly, common destiny. Interestingly, unbeknownst to the world and even to themselves, the Nagas have always been inherently a robust nation, bonded not just by the conditions of birth, but by way beyond as far back a common origin as a people. However, the question is, how is the picture of the Naga nation structured? History is very clear that Nagaland does not fall under the Indian Union. Naga territory was never an integral part of the Indian Union. We have our national flag, the rainbow flag with a six-pointed Bethlehem star. Naga flag is a covenant between God and the Nagas. The rainbow flag is our identity as a chosen people of God and our identity as a sovereign nation. Naga flag is not just a symbol, but our identity. Coming to the constitution, it is a Bible of the Naga political people, without which the Nagas would be a people without orientation and foundation. Naga flag and Naga constitution are the heart and soul of the Naga nationhood. Unfortunately, the existence of the Naga nation was disturbed by a successive external disruption in the form of Christian missionaries, British colonizers, and Indian imperialism. This led to the political revolution of Asia, the oldest political revolution of Asia, the Naga national movement. The consciousness of the Nagas as a nation was externally arose by the participation of the Naga labor corps in the First World War. The first attempt to embody a nation was thus formed in 1918 with the establishment of the Naga Nationalist Council, NNC, which culminated in the unequivocal declaration of Naga independence on 14 August 1947. The Shillong Accord of 1975 and the 16-point agreement of 1960 was signed, which was but a mistake. Finally, the historic Naga Framework Agreement was signed on 3rd August 2015. Quite clearly, the burning desire to live and roam free, the desire to live together as one people in our own homeland, having our own self-ruled government, gave birth to the nationwide movement of the Nagas, the Naga national movement. But the bitter truth is that the idea of a nation was betrayed by all those who should have defended it the most. We, the youth and Nagas as a whole, have ignored, forgot, and turned our back to the unique history and identity which shows who we are, what we are, where we come from, and how we have been existing. Does the light of the movement slow down? We are all in the same boat, different skin color, different ideas, but we are all in for the same reason. No doubt we are all in for the same movement. However, the question remains, why many of our youth shy away from the movement? Is it because people are sick and tired of for being silenced to execute their right of speech or their right to share their opinions? It is understood that the strength of the nation lies on giving voices to everyone, to the chosen leaders, and even to the people we don't like. We haven't lost our freedom movement, but we lost our unity. Hatred, bigotry, and divisions are evidence that our goal is at risk. I'll say it once, and I'll say 1,000 times. When the collective consciousness of a nation is ecocentric, people only create a system that is exclusive, and this led to inequality, poverty, discrimination, lawlessness, and corruption. But when the collective consciousness of a nation is world-centric, or better say cosmocentric, each individual contributed to the whole and is held and supported by the whole. Honestly, an average Naga youth hardly think about his or her nation, for he is busy earning his living. When there should be reverse migration where the educated Naga youths are required to come back to the land and serve the nation, our youths rush to the cities in search of jobs. The problem is we started with political revolution rather than the concept of work and responsibility. Naga youths need to be enabled to become job generator from job seeker. Youths are the custodians of our future generation. When we don't accept our responsibility, who are we hurting the most? Obviously ourselves. I do not see the loss of prestige in joining the movement. When I say this, I do not mean all the Naga youths should join the army. I mean all the Naga youths must cultivate the spirit of nationalism and must realize that we are fighting for our own undeniable God-given birthright and identity as a free people. Naga youth should not ask what our leaders can do for us. We must ask what we can do for our nation. Every Naga youth in whose veins true Naga blood runs must openly denounce and outrightly reject the pseudo-Nagas, false narratives of pseudo-Nagas, and lend unconditional support to the call of Naga nationalism. If the idea of a nation is to be redeemed, Nagas should establish the link with our glorious past and rededicate our future to Naga link for Christ. If the idea of a nation is to be done justice. Therefore, fellow Nagas, arise, stand ground, and fight until the trumpet of victory is sounded. Kugnani.
It gives me immense pleasure to speak on a topic which is very close to my heart and which I believe is part and parcel of each of us. The idea of a nation, our identity. Now you may be an engineer and I may be a farmer. You may be a Protestant and I may be Catholic. You may be NSCN and I may be an NPG. But above all, we are Nagas. We are one people and we are one nation. When we look back to history, our ancestors were brave warriors. They were ready for battle almost every day of their lives. If they have to pick up a spear or shield in a life and death situation, they will grit their teeth and fight until the battle was done. We are no different. The same blood flows in our vein, the same identity. The only difference is theirs was a physical brawl for brawl, but ours, it's a mental warfare. Our ancestors, though they did not go to schools or college or universities, or though they did not play football in major clubs or work in IT sectors, they are one of the most hardworking people. And with this I say, heroes and champions are not made of PUBG, Mobile Legends, or aimlessly WhatsApping, Instagramming, Facebooking, or idly strolling the city streets, but are the result of constant hard work, dedication, and sincerity. Leadership now is a question, and the question is, do you love your people? Do you love your nation? Are you willing to serve the nation? Serving the nation, my dear friends, is never a sacrifice, but always a privilege. And the best way to serve the nation is to improve yourself. Be a better version of you than you were yesterday. A better youth, a better footballer, a better artist, a better student, a better son, a better husband, a better mother. That's my idea of a nation. Not perfect, but better. There is a saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift of God, which is why it is called the present. If you and I are not the present of Nagas, we will never be the future of Nagas. Each of us has a role to play in nation building, and it is not just our leaders. A leader may be brave, intelligent, smart, hardworking, and honest, but alone, how much can he achieve? Alone, how much can you achieve? And alone, how much can I achieve? But together we can achieve more. They say perfection is an idle illusion. Yet I say we must aim for it. When we aim for perfection, we may never attain perfection, but when we strive for it, we will become better than we were yesterday. The stars are up there in the sky, and we are down here. We may never reach the stars, but when we aim for the stars and work towards it, we may become a star where others can follow the trails that we have left behind. Lately, I have been solving some mathematical problems. It still boggles me, but the good news is, it's getting better. I am improving, not perfect, but better. Now, see, not all of us can join the National Army, or not all of us can change the course of history, but all of us can improve ourselves, can be a better version of ourselves, Be a better person than we were yesterday. Not perfect, but better. My dear friends, and all of you who are watching this video, I ask of you what's been asked of humanity throughout the century. I ask you to believe, not just in my capability, not just in what I am capable of, but more importantly, in what you are capable of. I urge you to be the better version of you. I can never promise you that this idea of mine will be a nation of perfect peace, love, harmony, and prosperity. But from my heart of hearts, and from the deepest strings of my heart, I can assure you that if you can improve yourself, if I can improve myself, if collectively we can improve ourselves, then I assure you that we will have a better tomorrow, a better nation, and a brighter future. Not perfect, but better, for the betterment of mankind. Thank you so much.
My idea of a nation. This large international community, it began with one small family. So the whole human race is descended from one origin. Hence all human beings are born equal. No nation is superior to another nation. A nation may be defined as a community of people, mainly common descent, history, language, or cultures, and forming a state or inhabiting a territories. It is the will of God that every nation should determine their own destiny. It highly follows that we the Naga people are also destined to determine our own destiny. It wasn't by an accident, but in accordance with God's sovereign will and design that our ancestors came to settle in Nagalim. Sadly, we came to know that Naga movement for freedom is one of the oldest nationalist movements in Asia. It has been almost a generation that we live as a subject nation, while we were from the beginning out to live as one free nation. Mahatma Gandhi, father of the Indian nation, remarkably said himself on July 19, 1947 that Nagas have every right to be independent. A long struggle has followed with the march of history, and we have fully kept pace with it. But we have every right to choose freedom, and we shall live in freedom to fulfill the purpose of the Creator. The current liberation movement of the Naga people is in agreement with the will of God. We are not fated to live in bondage, dividing our territories into pieces. It is not a case of insurgency, but it is a liberation movement. We are not waging war. We are waging peace. It is a peace movement. And it is a natural law to allow every nation to choose their own freedom. Article 1 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights provided all the people have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, we freely determine our political status, freely pursuing our economic, social, and cultural development. We the Naga want to live in freedom and maintaining a peaceful relationship with our neighbors, but we do not want our neighbors to establish culture or religious hegemony over us. To build a nation, only the selfless people who love the people and the land will be chosen to lead the nation. Our new nation should be a democratic republic. In the close of my speech, presenting a line of words spoken by Ezet Fizo, former president of Naga National Council, we believe that we shall become a better friend and can remain a better friend to India and outside the world if we are left to ourselves, unmolested and unexploited, and that there is a better chance of creating and retaining peace and goodwill with a sovereign Nagaland being in existence. Above everything else, we are called to be free as a distinct nation, and we shall be free. Kuknalim.
Hello, my name is Seth Shimra. I would like to share my opinion on the topic, a nation. In the first place, I would like to define what is a nation. A nation is a group of people having a common history, common language, common descent, common culture, ethnic, living in a particular territory or a country. That's the shortest definition of a nation. Now, right after the end of the First World War, the feeling of nationalism develops in every individuals. Self-determination was considered or is considered as a cardinal principle of international law or the United Nations. President Woodrow Wilson during the end of the First World War stated that national aspiration must be respected. Okay, in order to make a clear understanding about this nationalism, let us take a finest example of Naga nationalist movement. The Naga nationalist movement, which is considered as the oldest nationalist movement in Asia, it has been 102 years, it's more than a century. On 11 November 1975, the political leader of India, they forcefully made the Nagas to accept the supremacy of the Constitution of India, which was signed as a Shillong Accord. But the Nagas, they rejected this agreement. The government of India in 1935 ordered, make point of this, ordered that Naga areas are considered as an excluded area. The Nagas were never under the control of Indians since immemorial. Everything that, when we look back into the history, it's absolutely two different nations. The culture, the traditions, the language, everything is different. We don't find any similarities in a written record or in the history. Okay, now, as per my opinion, in order to form a nation, or in order to form an ideal nation, if the populations and if the resources are adequate for its maintenance or self-reliance or self-dependent, it can form an ideal nation. Even the Greek political philosopher Plato and Aristotle favored or encouraged a small population to build an ideal nation. I therefore would like to state that even the Indian forces, by using a military might, suppress or try to abolish the rights, the history of the Nagas. Thousands of innocent Naga lives have been lost. But till then, the Nagas, being a Christian nation, they are always welcome to bring reconciliation, to forgive. Even though the Indians, they violate human rights or international law, or with the principle of peaceful means, the Nagas are ever ready to solve the issues in a peaceful means. I therefore would like to mention certain points in order to build an ideal nation. Point number one, quality education is required in the young generations or the youths. Number two, every Nagas or every individual must have a national aspiration, which means a will of success. Point number three, there must be mutual understanding among the people. Point number four, every decisions striving towards the call must be based on a peaceful means. We should not we should not adopt any violence. It must be based on peaceful means. Finally, there must be unity among the people. Without unity, we cannot bring peace. Now, as a conclusion, I fervently urge the United Nations to keep vigilant towards the powerful nations suppressing the weaker sections of the community, example Nagas, which have been struggling, which have been suppressed for more than 100 years. Please do not give a deaf ear or a blind eye towards the innocent bloods, claiming for the rights, claiming for the ancestral lands that the forefathers had inherited towards them. And therefore, in order to build an ideal nation, we must bring a sense of unity. Then only we can build up an ideal nation. Thank you.
A nation generally is considered as a group of people united by common origin, history, culture, or languages, and inhabiting a particular geographic locations. And I do agree with the general idea that a nation is formed by all these factors. But none of these are absolute essentials. A nation can be formed of two ways, one by birth or inheritance as a nation, and the other by contriving or blending together of different people. For example, United States is formed by the amalgamation of different race, different culture. They never belonged together before Columbus discovered America, but with time they morphed together as a nation. And there are so many such examples. To be considered as a nation, one must first understand that a nation is the people, and so nation should emerge from a feeling of belongingness by the individual. More valuable than common customs, traditions, and frontiers is the fact of sharing common aspirations. The feeling of sacrifices that one has made in the past and of those that one is prepared to make in the future should fall on similar horizon. The way of life should fall more or less on the same page too. And the formation of a nation should always take the consent of the people, the desire of the people to continue as one nation. The Nagas belong to the Indo-Mongoloid race and occupy an area sharing common international boundary with China, Bangladesh, Burma, and India in the north, south, east, and west respectively. And the Nagas are a group of various tribes speaking different dialects. But despite the differences in their languages, one may see that the work of life, food habits, social, economic, and political lives of the Nagas are more or less on one model, as if sunrise and sunset falls under one longitude and latitude. Many researchers, historians, and writers do acknowledge that the origin and migration of the Nagas show close affinities with each other. And I'm sure it won't be wrong to say that the Nagas are the indigenous people of the land, as there is no legend or historical evidence to prove it otherwise. We the Nagas share a common unique history. We fought the same fight, that our knowledge of the past, the meaning it has for us are the same, that are part of us, part of our unique history, our culture and traditions. And by this I'm not trying to say that this should be the prerequisite condition to form a Naga nation. But if these elements that we share in common are a basis of unity, then it forms the very foundation and understanding of a nation, which is great. Historically, Naga homeland had never been a part of India. Before the British arrived, the Nagas were not united as one. They lived like the independent Greek city-states. But there was a sense of oneness as our customs and traditions were found nothing different. And I'm in full agreement with what Mr. Gege Sema said, and I quote, "Nagas are Indian by circumstances, not by choice. Nagas are not Indian in any sense, neither in origin, nor in habit, nor in our way of life, and neither in our appearance. Nagas don't feel a sense of belongingness with the Indians. Prior to the declaration of the Indian independence, the Nagas had already declared the determination of self-governance one day ahead. Nagas want to live together as one because we are one. The concept of common Naga ethnicity has been a well-established force which binds all the Naga tribes together, and this leads to the formation of Naga nation. The Nagas still stand as a nation in the midst of the UNPO, the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization. Even after 73 years that Indians and Nagas merged by circumstances, the identity of the Nagas in any part of the present India is completely different as compared to most of the people living within the four corners of India. Examining all this and reviewing various books and articles, one can't help but realize that the existence of Naga as a nation itself is legitimate. Thank you and good night.
What first comes to your mind when you hear the word nation? Lots of people, a flag, a constitution, or even a map maybe. But whatever you imagine, when it comes to defining the word nation, there always is a variation. For example, to a freedom fighter, a nation could mean motherland, where they are willing to sacrifice even their own life. But to a mere citizen like me, a common citizen like me, who has no direct contribution for the nation, who is but a spectator in this game of freedom movement, the idea of nation is perceived in a lot lesser value than its actual meaning. Let's face it, we have a unique national slogan, Nagalim for Christ. But let's ask ourselves, what is my attitude of service to the nation right now? What is our present spirit of patriotism? Yes, no doubt about it. Our differences in occupation,
Our differences in living standard, places we live in, has uneven our understanding of nation as day is from the night. So can we bring about a unified understanding of what a nation truly meant? Yes, we can. We can. But how? How can we bring about a unified understanding of what a nation truly meant among our people? When an opportunity to realize our role for our nation comes, such as this wonderful speech competition platform hosted by our Tangkhul Naulong, Delhi, people's hearts are stirred and urged upon, and every participant can research on their own and find out their own role and responsibility for the nation. Nationalism will surely arise, but only when people have a sense of their role in the national movement. So here am I today to share with you all my idea of a nation. Whenever we hear the word nation, we always picture something huge, majestic, or on a large scale. And you definitely do not picture a small or on a lowly subject. So today, from my perspective, I would like to share with you all that each one of us is a nation. Don't we find in the Bible also where God said to Rebekah, 2 nations are in thy womb. How can 2 nations be inside a mother's womb unless it is 2 persons inside a mother's womb? Yes, each one of us is a nation. And in our decades-old movement for freedom, you guess what is the secret to having a great nation? When each one of us, that is you and I, comes together as one, that is when we will have a great nation. You may be in America, I might be living in India. You might be skinnier, I might be bigger. He might be a soldier running in a field, or you might be just a housewife cooking a stew at home. Whichever part of the world you might be, or how different our socio-economic status might be, each and every one of us represents the great nation of Naga. By blood, by history, by our culture. So as part of this great and unique nation, let's ask ourselves, what is my role and responsibility? What am I showing to the world at large about my identity, about my nation? Let us not forget, no one is alone in this. Every one of us is a nation individually, but together, a great nation. Each one of us has our own role and responsibility. That is my view, my idea on a nation. What about yours?
Nagas were born free. According to our leader T.H. Muiwa, freedom is the most precious gift of God to mankind, but slavery is man-made, pure and simple. The choice rests upon us. In pursuit of our long-lost freedom, here I am speaking about my idea of a nation, a free nation. Why would a commoner like me would dream of a free nation? Because I need a place called home, a place to come back when everything shatters. I dream of a nation that reminds me of joy and happiness through pain and suffering. I am fed up of living as a stranger in my own land. We have forgotten who we are. We are consumed by our own greed, pride, jealousy, and dishonesty. We were the colonized, and now we have become the colonizers. Our struggle for freedom has become harder and harder because we fight not only the aliens, but our own kind of people. Allow me to say that the colonizers are our lawmakers. In almost all the countries, we have seen the most splendid ways of running a nation, but it cannot perfect us. You know why? Because we are Nagas and our roots are different, and we have our indigenous ways and resources, which is our way of life and resources, which I believe can be perfected in our own way. This war is not a war of spears and shields, nor of guns, but of love. None can win a war with force and hatred. Love suppresses all. I can hear distant drumbeats of peace, if we beat down greed, pride, jealousy, and dishonesty. We have to first sort it out ourselves before we let anyone else intervene. Believe me, we are halfway to building a nation. Forgive me for romanticizing, for I could not help it. I dream of an inclusive nation where not only less than half of the population makes decisions for us. I dream of a nation where the little ones would be able to exercise their innocence. They smile knowing that the elders are there to keep them secure and protect them. I dream of a nation where half of the population, that is my sisters, will have their voice in the nation building. I dream of a nation where men will not hide their tears, knowing that their women and children look up to them because tears are signs of love and struggles. I dream of a nation where our fathers and brothers protect the fellow man, women, and children with love, and where we women folk serve them with love, dignity, and courage. And the little ones are cared with love and understanding, and the pure smiles of theirs encourage us by giving us hope to persevere every day with joy in our hearts, knowing that the land we toil, the service that we gave to each other, the sweats and tears that we wipe will be a footprint for them. And as they follow our footprints, may they find us faithful in what we have done and continue to lead the legacy we have made. And above all, I believe that all this will be possible if we are rooted in Christ. I dream and dream of a nation where we all join our hands in healing our land, our resources, God's most precious gift for us. So, what I do is embrace the nation I dream of and stand for the truth I know of, and that truth will hold on to dearly into our hearts once we embrace each other with love and join our hands and stand together with the hills of our nation that is so dear to us. For this is our home. Remember that, a God-chosen land with promises. Gugnalin.
Hello, I'm Sonibem Pazang. I just graduated from Spicer Adventist University, Pune, Maharashtra. I would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to the organizer for providing this beautiful opportunity where we get to learn and grow. It also gives me the time to actually think deeper about our nation, and it helps me grow as a citizen. I would like to take this privilege to extend a beam of hope to the nation through my presentation. And yeah, actually, I wanted to go outside and film it, but I'm down with typhoid, and so I'm locked inside. Anyway, first thing first, who are the Nagas? The Nagas are the wooden platters or the head strappers, or say in familiar words, the head hunters. They are a freedom-loving people, a very powerful race belonging to the Sino-Mongolian family, but they are totally different from the mainland Indian stock, Dravidian and Aryan groups. They make up the population of the Southeast Asian Hills people. They have been known for their pride and independent identity. The Naga movement traced back to the time when the Nagas were under the leadership of Zabu Fizo, continuing the dynasty leading by Mr. Twingalang Miwa. They have been fighting for an independent homeland for more than 60 years now. In 1951, the Naga delegate led by Zabu Fizo went to Delhi to meet the Prime Minister of India to discuss about the Naga political aspiration. But the Prime Minister Nehru gave a negative attitude towards their demand. However, Tabufizo and his colleagues, with a strong determination, came back for the second time. It is said that this time Nehru lost his temper and said, even if the heaven falls, or even if India went to pieces, Nagas would never be given independence. Therefore, Zabufizo and his colleagues came back empty-handed again. On 11th November 1975, when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India, a peace accord between the government and the Naga Nationalist Council was signed and was called the Shillong Accord. In 2014, when Narendra Modi came into power, a new push was given to the peace talks. In 3rd August 2015, a framework agreement was signed between the center's representative Aryan Ravi and NSCN. According to my findings, the peace talk interlocutors Aryan Ravi was insulting the armed groups by calling them gangster and by turning the political issues into a law and order problems. If any negotiation it is to be termed as one, it should be governed by give and take, otherwise there can be no talking ground. So yeah, that's pretty much the history. And I feel like this Naga movement is relevant to the youths today because they should know that Naga didn't have an easy road. They were betrayed, they were insulted by the people they respect, and they have shown enough patience to the people who don't have mercy. So yeah, this movement is pretty much relevant to the youths, solely just to make them stronger. And this movement was actually started by our forefathers, and so if at all the Naga demand was not fulfilled this generation, they should never be afraid to fight forward and build a greater Nagaland. Good.
We have heard a lot about nation, emphasizing the Naga nation, the Naga sovereignty and whatnot. But what is nation and what is the notion of nation in relationship with the people of Naga? Why do we even have to fight for the word so-called nation? Is it really worth standing for the nation claims by the people of Naga? If say so yes, then what is nation? Well, the word nation originates from the Latin word natio, which means birth or place of origin, which is in fact the idea of nation implies a common blood relationship. According to Oxford Dictionary, I want you to listen to this very carefully. A nation is a large body of people united by common descent, history, culture, language, and inhabiting a particular territory, and organized an independent government which controls a specific geographical area. Nation formation can be of two types. Politically based nation, which is formed by multiple ethnic groups coming together, for example India. And the second one is ethnically based nation, which is formed by single ethnic groups, example Japan. And now, owing to the present scenario of struggle for Naga independence, it is observed that Nagalim is one undeniable nation formed by single ethnic group. Now my question is, who are we? Are we Indians? Or are we Burmese? Or are we a lost tribe suddenly uprising for a full-fledged nation from nowhere? Even the smallest ant species has their territory. They fight against others ant species that tries to intrude in their territory. Likewise, every bigger organisms mark their territory, which is why it is by God's given nature that even human species has that instinct to guard the land, to control and rule their territories. In fact, we are absolutely another sovereign state, governing our own land even before the arrival of the British in India. You bought an acre of land, you demarcated the boundary well defined. Few days later, unknown men come into your land and started cultivating in your land. How are you going to react? That is how the refugees are doing. But the story is quite different here with colonizers. We were never under their land or under their controls like a refugee. Rather, we have had our own land, our own culture, our own history, well separated from them since time immemorial. That is how we are, and we were a very unique nation from time being. That is why Avakar says we have every right of having our own constitutions. We have every right of having our own flag. We cannot ask for permission from Indians as we are the master of ourselves. If I ask you to choose between renter of the house and tenants to the house, I believe every one of us will go to renter. No matter how strict or how shabby the house is, it is always better to be the master of the house than to be a tenant. In that way, you are sovereign over the house. Your hard-earned victory over the house is a blessing to you, and moreover, it is a blessing for your offspring. Similarly, a nation is a house for a group of people by common descent. My dear friends, how I want to conclude it with is, we have been plundered, we have been betrayed, deceived, insulted, and abused right in front of the eye of our motherland. And if we do not fight back for our right, then who are we? That is the reason why thousands of Naga heroes have selflessly sacrificed their life just to mark the uniqueness of Naga nation with their blood. We are fighting not because we want which is not ours. We are fighting because others are taking away our nationhood rights. It is our time to take the stand. Lastly but not least, nation cannot exist by itself. Nation is built, and building a nation requires your education, your knowledge, your wisdom, your talents and skills, your determination, your courage, your prayer, and most importantly, your contribution. You are exactly the kind of person needed by our nation. Kuknalim.
My idea of a nation. A nation, by definition, is a population united by customs, cultures, language, common descent, and inhabiting a specific territory bound by a constitution. So, my idea of a nation, a Naga nation, derived from the fact that we Nagas have common customary laws and culture practice, and fine-tuning these social governance values and making it relevant in our today's progressive society. You see, the nature of our Nagas movement for sovereignty is quite distinct than any other nation's fight for sovereignty, as we began our movement with an unanimous consent of 99% by the Naga people. We, a nation of 27 tribes, have been following and practicing a similar form of governance. In the context of education, we have been following direct democracy at the village level. A clan chooses its representative to the village authority or the chieftain's court, and the tenure of the representative solely lies in the hands of the individual clan. There is no known better form of governance than the Nagas' form of direct democracy at the village level in the context of transparency and accountability. All the tribes, they function under a shared common constitution which is derived from our old age customs and cultural practices. Unlike Republic of India adopting quadri-federal form of power sharing, we Nagas have adopted federal form of power sharing. Thus, our movement for sovereignty is a federal movement with the participation of all the 27 Naga tribes. Unknowingly, our form of governance has been diluted by the Indian form of governance, the Panchayati Raj, in recent years. Now, in the context of economic governance, we Nagas have adopted Maoist socialists in 1980, and SCN being the sole advocate amongst the insurgency groups. The contrast to a particular fact that we Nagas culturally have been in practice of privatization, even though we have community lands, resources, even so they are not owned by the community. Socialist economy like the United Kingdoms, India, and Israel, they have one thing in common. They all fail to feed their modern population. British economy plummeted in 1900 so badly, beyond repair, that the phrase "the sun never sets" in the British Empire changed to "the sick man of Europe." Economic revivals did arrive, under the prime ministership of Margaret Thatcher when she adopted decentralization and privatization. Likewise, an erstwhile colony of British, India adopted socialist economy after witnessing the Great Depression in 1920. But it took 80 years since independence for India to realize that this socialist economy was incapable of fixing her ever-growing youth unemployment. But under the foresightedness and prowess of Dr. Manmohan Singh, there was a change. There was an economic boom when he adopted semi-decentralized economic system, and there was a GDP growth of 6% annually. Such is the fragility of our modern economy. Countries around the world, they are opening up the free market for foreign investments, and us, Nagas, as a whole, we have adopted socialist economy, and if we adhere to the said economy, we will be left behind in today's economic race. China, our guardian angel, they have adopted mixed economy, and they have the second largest economy in the world. Thus, if we are to adopt socialist economy, we should adopt it like the Chinese, a mixed one, not with the Soviet idea of socialist economy. In conclusion, politically and economically, direct democracy, federal power sharing, and mixed economy was ingrained in our old age customs and cultures. Hence, my idea of a nation is that we stick to our old age customs and practices. Thank you.
A nation is a stable community of people formed on the basis of a common language, territory, history, ethnicity, or psychological makeup manifested in common culture. Naga as a nation is an imagined creation, a historical process, and a historical necessity that has been forced upon by colonialism, conversion, and a fast-changing world. Nagas are not primitive hill tribes, but people. There are no people without a unique history of their own, and the history of the Nagas is that of something spectacular, heroic, but tragic at the same time. The desire of the Nagas to preserve their identity was so strong that it led to the national movement initiated by the Naga National Council under the leadership of A.Z. Piso. The history of the Nagas is the story of several nations often at war with each other, and the story of the Nagas is of a group of people growing according to their thinking and understanding of themselves and the world. The Naga tribes are known for their pride and independent identity. The process of politicization led to the urge of a creation of a separate land for the Nagas. The separatist movement can be traced back to 1918 with the founding of the Naga Club. In 1929, a memorandum was submitted by the Naga Club to the Simon Commission. It pleaded that after the British left India, the Nagas be left to govern themselves independently. It stated that India had never conquered Nagaland and the Nagas were never subject to foreign rule. The plea, however, was unsuccessful. The members who had submitted the memorandum on behalf of all the Nagas did not have the qualification for the task, but they were equipped with sophisticated intellect, visionary mind, and were somewhat prophetic at seeing the trauma of post-colonialism. The Nagas declared independence on the 14th of August 1947, a day before India's. Had it been a day later, the course of the Nagas' history would have been completely different. The leaders of the day reaffirmed to what the previous leaders had stated in writing 18 years earlier in 1929. A plebiscite was conducted by the Naga National Council on the 16th of May 1951. It indicated that 99% of the population voted to remain independent of the new Indian state. This event marked the most unique stand of solidarity by the Nagas. Even after more than 70 years of struggle, our nationalist leaders remain determined to fight for our independence. Although divided geopolitically, Nagas can be united culturally and politically in the broader realities of civic life. This united culture can develop in all the Naga lands as a way to work together. Today, the Naga sense of identity remains as strong as ever, and there are many opportunities that can shape our future. The history of many nations has shown that opportunities could be lost if a leader is locked in backwards thinking and hatreds of the past. The human desire to live in peace is so great that given the right opportunities and leaders with visions, communities that have in the past fought and struggled can put their differences aside and come together to work out a peaceful way forward. We Nagas long to find our rightful place in the world and become a recognized group of people. I would like to conclude by what T. Sakri, the then General Secretary of the Naga National Council, wrote some 70 years ago. If I were to choose a country, it would be Nagaland, my fair Nagaland, again and again. Thank you.
Nation is the soul of the state. Both nation and the state are inseparable. Both are the two sides of the same coin, and both are complementary to each other. There are, of course, points of similarities and dissimilarities between them. When state is the physical structure of the nation, nation is the soul of the state. When state is seen from the characteristic of the territory, government, population, and sovereignty, nation is to be seen from the points of its meaningfulness of the state, its significance, its roles and its functions that give identity, hope, pride, and future to the people of the state. Nation also guides the direction of the journey of state toward peace, prosperity, growth, and unity for the people within its territory. In brief, nation represents the value system of the state, that is, the composites of the common culture, history, language, descent, belief, livelihood, custom, origin, and journey of its existence, and all to serve the interests of the people. Friends, my idea of a nation, so-called Nagalim, is to be seen from biblical narrative. Certainly, God's plan for a people is a sovereign state and is for a free nation where we have an atmosphere of love, peace, joy, equality, prosperity, identity, and pride as free people from the bondage of suppression and servitude. We are free people since time immemorial. Naga history belongs to God and is for God. Nagalim for Christ movement is for a nation state where God's kingdom is established here on earth and reflect the value system of God as free nation for the world to acknowledge God's glory and God's grace for His children. Now let us see from the current scenario. The current political scenario of Naga nation state is very disheartening. We have a nation state by inheritance from our forefathers, but fail to recognize the hostile nations of the world. This is the critical issue of the matter today in our lives. We, the Nagas in general, and the national and political workers and civil societies in particular need to introspect and retrospect individually and collectively before God when it comes to our commitment for the cause of Naga nation given by God through our forefathers. It's a time for integrity in word and action, a time for a movement with one voice, a time to have feeling of oneness, a feeling of humility, boldness, alignment to God's strategies and our faith in His battle for His kingdom building. Future generations are now on the move toward a right direction for recovering the lost dignity, glory, pride, and salvation. We are now fully aware of the facts. In the land of emerging Hindu Raj, Naga profess faith, future, pride, and identity are at stake and at risk. Thank God movement is gaining momentum. Time will come when Nagas will hold their head high as free people with their own nation state. Nagalim, Kuknalim, thank you.
Nagas, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legends, the great grandmother of traditions. I am Raimi Sabin. In Nagas, we respect all ethnic, culture, linguistic with Christianity, religious. When Naga nations preach to the world that we believe in divinity, not from imperialism. So when these nations cultivate peace and harmony for the whole world, at this very moment today are given topic, my idea of a nation give immense pleasure and relevance to this context. First in all, my idea of a nation means a group of people come, unite, share by common descent, history, culture, inhabiting a particular territories. In fact, patriotism and idea of a nation move hand to hand. In the history of mankind, the turning point of patriotism and idea of a nation, a revolution based on liberty, equality, fraternity, called French Revolution and American independence. Then January 1929, when Naga sent memorandum to Simon Commission that leave the Nagas alone to determine for themselves has in ancient time. 19 July 1947, when Nagas met to Mahatma Gandhi, father of Indian nation, he said, Nagas have every right to be independent. 16 May 1951, when Naga plebiscites to 99.9% voted to remain free Naga nations. Many great freedom fighters of Naga heroes, leaders, and innocent people have give fallen sacrifice for the sake of nations. Recently, Naga political dialogue issues has been taken out into pre-consent condition, unconditional, at neutral venue, and at prime minister level. This made it possible only when the position of Nagas is unique history, unique nations, unique institutions. We Nagas are never dominant or puppet government under India before and after the left of British rules. Even by the armed forces or consent of the Naga people, we Nagas are never part of India. That is our nation, that is our history. We Nagas are master of our own Naga destiny. We Naga do not seek only towards peaceful and prosperous Naga nations, but also sowing the seeds of peaceful Northeast India. We are unique people, we are unique political issues, and it is the dreams of every Naga to attain and secure a Naga nations. Today, in this civilization, a democratic ideas where war and violence has no place. Naga movement is one of the oldest movement in Asia. But still today, we are on a political process because in our past days, our leaders did not unite for the right cause at the right time. Many a time, government of India has been betrayed the history of Nagas, but we Nagas are able to stand on ground of military stage, on ground of political stage. We don't demand anything from government of India. The only question we have is, will the government of India will respect the history of the Nagas? We Naga have altitude that if government of India respect the history of Nagas, we respect more than what they respect to us. If they don't respect the history of Nagas, that is the end. We are not loose people. By virtue of sovereignty right, we can have, we deserve. Naga sovereignty belongs to Nagas. We were never part of India. India and Naga can never follow same constitutions. We can never shatter in one umbrella. We can never use same flag. Because we are unique history, we are unique situations, we are unique nations. Now it is a high time for Naga youths and the students to come forward and talk bravely. To whom future of Naga nations belongs. To support our dialogue process, promote unity across a land and uphold Naga values, honor and dignity so that the strength of the Naga character will ultimately bring an early peaceful settlement with secure, free Naga nations. Father of the Indian nation Mahatma Gandhi cited that Nagas have every right to be independent. By virtue of our sovereignty rights, we can have, we deserve. Good night.
Taking the privilege of the Nagas movement, I am representing here to deliver a message on the topic My Idea of a Nation, which relate to the ongoing present situation of the Nagas national movement. So basically when we talk about a nation, we usually tend to refer to a group of people bound together by common language, identity, ethnicity, history, etc. Likewise, the Nagas as a nation should also have its own components of a nation, which includes sovereignty, population, boundaries, and culture. keeping in mind that what is not yours, you cannot force anyone or claim that it's yours. In this, even the government of India has no right to go against it or to play a political ideology of ignoring our rights and issues. How many years have Nagas been struggling, fighting for its freedom, rights, and identity? Have we ever wondered or think as to why the Nagas movement still exists today? Looking back, it's very unjust and unfair, manipulating the final framework agreement, which was signed on the 3rd of August 2015, to end the decades-old issue in the presence of the Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi. Could such act of manipulation hinder amongst the leaders and call it a democratic country? I hope not, because it also fails to accept the commitment, the pledge, and vow the Indian government has for the Nagas national movement. Moreover, considering the unique clear history of the Nagas movement, one need not raise a question to generate a complexity against it or create a chaos and confusion amongst the people. Henceforth, not forgetting to ensure a political stability, which is the end of history, to a long-drawn Nagas movement. The Nagas should have its own homeland and a unique identity. No persuading, no excuses, no politics in any aspects, no corruptions, no dramas, etc. Standing for our rights and freedom is protecting our identity. Therefore, the sacrificial hardships, toils, and struggles the Nagas faced and overcome should never go in vain. Well, before concluding my speech, I would strongly urge the future pillar of Nagas, that is the youth, to empower themselves and shield with in-depth knowledge through education, skillful workmanship, wisdom, and an unending contribution in bringing our unique national identity. Having diverse opinion causes no harm. However, failing to contribute as a true patriotic nationhood to the one cause as Nagas implant a betrayal remark even for the sprouting youth of the future generation. So we should be very careful, because building a nation ultimately requires your commitment, your dedication, your service, your time, your ability, your code of conduct, your virtue, your sense of belongings, above all, your knowledge. This is our homeland, and we constitute to build up a nation. We belong here by birth and origin. It's a fact not to be erased. Therefore, it is the birthright of every Naga citizen. Preserving our unique history with unity to bring about identity is our top priority. For united we shall stand as one, since divided we shall fall. In the long run, it will greatly influence and impact on the coming generation. We live today for tomorrow, for future. So let's stand firm on what we have been fighting for. Don't get driven away by wealth, possession, money, fame, etc. Okay, lastly, to survive in peace and harmony, united and strong, we must have one people, one nation, and one flag. Kuknalim.